Namaste, my name is Ojasvi Chandok and I welcome you to Series 4 of the Festival of Bharat. We are a platform that believes in having open and civilized discourse. And today, here with us, we have a very special guest. We have Rajiv Malhotra ji. Rajiv ji, of course, needs no introduction. He's a guru to a lot of people. He's a Hindu activist, an author, and the foundation of Infinity Foundation, and organization that focuses on Indic studies. Rajiv ji, namaste, pranam, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Namaste. It's my pleasure to be with you.
Rajiv ji, first of all, how are you and how are things at the wonderful Infinity Foundation? What are your latest projects and what should we really look forward to from you and your team?
Well, Infinity Foundation is now about 27, 28 years old.
Mhm.
The only foundation of its time for the first 10 years of its life, using our private funds, from my business days, not depending on any government or any institution, totally independent, and promoting Indian civilization based on solid research, not shouting, screaming, no politics. We're not involved with any of that short-term stuff, but making changes in the discourse that have long-term significance rather than short-term.
Mhm.
That's been our calling card. So
Mhm.
truly wanting to be like a think tank. Now it's come a long way. It used to be a one-man show, but now we have about a dozen or more individuals in India
Mhm.
and five in the United States on a full-time. They are paid people, and then we have, in addition to it, a large number of interns and a large number of volunteers.
Mhm.
So I'm glad to say we have a good team of young people between, say, mid 20s and mid late 30s. A lot of people who are on the team leading. So
Mhm.
it's done very well. And we were always virtual, so the pandemic didn't affect us in that sense.
Mhm.
The we produced in During the pandemic, we produced two major books. One was Sanskrit non-translatables, about words that cannot be translated. They're Sanskrit words.
Mhm.
And the second is my more recent book called Artificial Intelligence and the Future of Power.
Mhm.
So we've had a productive time despite the pandemic. We are terribly sorry about the loss of life and many other kinds of losses around the world. Luckily, we scraped through. We're okay, and so things are looking good for us. We've learned a lot during this pandemic, how to run things, how to do things better. And we have a very exciting 2021 program. Lots of research, lots of books to be produced. The one thing I miss a lot is physical events, because that's where there's a lot of electricity and chemistry and a lot of energy, kind of an electric atmosphere of people meeting. I love these live Q&As
Mhm.
with huge audiences. I've done that for quarter century now. I miss all that. So once the pandemic is more quietened down a little bit, then I want to resume that.
Mhm.
And maybe we'll meet somewhere. You can interview me or do a live event. I know Festival Bharat is virtual,
Mhm.
and it's very good, because then you have more flexibility. But I
Mhm.
also feel that the physical events bring out interesting quality, that human to human contact.
Right, right. We, in fact, actually do host physical events. It's just that during the lockdown, we had to shift to the online mode.
Aha,
But
okay.
it's wonderful to hear, Rajiv ji, honestly. And so I am 19 years old, and students like me who find inspiration in your guidance and in your teachings and the way that you put out facts out there for everyone to read and research. What I wanted to ask you is, what has your life in Seva been? What made you leave your life as a multifaceted CEO, entrepreneur, investor, and completely shift your gaze to matters of civilizational import?
Well, this is interesting. I haven't written my autobiography, and I don't want to get into my autobiographical, because I think that personality then diverts attention away from the message.
Mhm.
Uh, eh, to me, the message is more important than the messenger. But the messenger's life does have some lessons. In fact, not only lessons on what others should do, but a lot of lessons on what others should not do, learned from my experiences. So I've had since childhood a very spiritual life, done a lot of meditation, gotten involved with many gurus, many meditation systems, came from a Arya Samaj family, from my mother's side, very westernized family from my father's side. They were all bankers in Lahore, and you know, so uh, the whole dual upbringing of a very Western, anglicized education, and also a very deep spiritual side of me. And the spiritual side of me was not any particular denomination, but I have gone to most of the lineages and darshans, and from, but primarily I would say Kashmir Shaivism in general, a lot of bhakti tradition, a lot of Vedanta training, Ramakrishna mission, Chinmaya mission, all of that. And all over the world, I've gone with various gurus over the years. So this was a part of my life. This whole thing was part of, and I would say Buddhism. I have really gone into Buddhism a lot, and also Sri Aurobindo and various others. But I always felt that my real calling was not making money and business. My real although I did extremely well there, but my real calling was to discover the higher truths for myself, become a better person, and have direct experiences of the higher states of consciousness. I always wanted to do that. So the opportunity came twice. The first time in my late 20s, when a company I was owning some equity in, we sold out. We made a lot of money. I could have retired right then, but I didn't. I guess I went into the rat race, and success sometimes draws you towards more success. So I got a big offer. So I went back into the corporate life. And so, but then many more years later, another opportunity came. By now I had started my own companies. These companies had done very well. So an opportunity came when I said, okay, I don't need more, and I can be okay. I don't need to become a billionaire. Although if I had continued to do those things, I would have. But the thing is, my calling was something else, and so I decided that I should leave all this, and I exit all my businesses, and I got into this new life, which has been there for like 28 years of now. In this new life, it wasn't I didn't have a goal what exactly I'll do, except for the fact that I'll search, spend a lot of time learning, understanding, and my yagna is giving back, interacting with society, encountering, engaging, and playing a role to give back. And so I let experience decide how to give back, what is needed, what does society want from me. I just experimented. So I when I started my foundation, I became an AIDS social worker for AIDS. I had to go for a 3 months training to get certified. Here in New Jersey, it was a big epidemic all over the world, the HIV crisis, and I became a certified worker to help people. And so they would assign clients to me. This is as a volunteer, and to help them out in various ways. And this is a very good way of giving back, because I came across suffering. I came across people who needed help, and only when you touch suffering, physical contact with people around you, and with all the precautions, you go there, and some of it is legal help, some of it is emotional help, some of it is you lobby for them, you lobby with the government on their behalf. So all kinds of projects were going on. Then I got into hospice, where again I had to go for training. You don't become a worker without certification. So and they assigned me clients, all white guys, white men who were about to die. Their families had abandoned them, and they needed somebody to talk over all the things that happen when a person is about to die. So given my culture, my background, my ideas of death, what I had learned, I was able to do the counseling, make friends with them. Some of them, I was the final friend, the only person left in their life. They would get flowers or some wired gift from some daughter in California, but no visit, no physical contact. People in this country are very lonely, and so I had to deal with that. So like this, I went into various. We started a soup kitchen where we were feeding hungry people in Trenton. A lot of hungry people in this country. Many Indians don't realize Americans have a lot of hunger, a lot of poverty also. So we did that. Then we started the only animal shelter at the time, There was only one. We started an animal shelter, which would take stray dogs and look after them, and so we did a lot of this kind of work. And women's shelter, we started a women's shelter for South Asians women particularly. Uh, so this common, more conventional philanthropy was one kind of compassion. We called it compassion. And the other part of our work was wisdom, knowledge, gyan. And in wisdom, I went to we did started many programs for advanced courses at Columbia University. We gave grants at Harvard University on Indology. We took school students where my kids went to school. We took them to India for spring break to visit various spiritual places. Rishikesh. We took them to Nepal. We took them all the different spiritual centers in North India, particularly, in order to give them that experience. I became a kind of advisor to their religious studies department in the school system here. Started engaging with the New Jersey State to introduce Asian studies in their curriculum with a heavy emphasis on Dharma traditions. So we really got in the wisdom side. We had a lot of interesting things going on. Now, these two projects of wisdoms and compassion went parallel, but then I realized that on the compassion side, we didn't have a leverage. There was nothing new I was bringing. I was doing the work as a hospice worker or for AIDS counseling like anybody else would. I didn't have any expertise, nothing unique about me. But on the wisdom side, I felt that my background, my training, my meditation, all this tapasya I had done was something I could leverage and bring something unique and new to the table, because the Indian authorities were not interested in helping our civilization in those days. The Indian gurus were very busy running their own shop and limited to their own success, but not the bigger issues. The Indian political parties didn't want, they were all into secular and all that. And Indian community people and the very rich people who made a lot of money were afraid of this as a controversial issue. They didn't want to touch it. So this is a vacuum that I've filled. For a very long time. I was the only game in town, our foundation. And so that's how we began. And experiences taught me what I should do more, what I should do less, where the needs are. And so ever since I've been shifting, changing, evolving. When I think that something doesn't need me, there are lots of other people who've entered, then I just want to move on to something else where I can add value, I can bring something original. So that's been my journey. And now I'm at a stage where I'm wanting to train a young team and turn over things to them. And basically, I just want to become a writer of the remaining 20 volumes. I have to do 20 more volumes. And I want to finish those and be a public speaker. And I really don't want anything else. I don't need any appointment. People keep saying they should appoint you in this or that position. I don't want any appointment. I quit all the jobs. I quit all the for-profit many years ago, more than a quarter century ago. I'm not looking to go back into politics and jobs. And, every career has political dimensions. Even if it's a non-profit, you will learn. Even if you don't want any profit, the point is that there are also all these egos hustling and competing. I don't want to be in that. So I'm not looking for any award. I'm not looking for any position, appointment. I don't care. I just want to be a free thinker, and I want to be a creative person and work for my dharma, which is that's the jagna of my life. So I'm happy, and I'll continue as long as I'm capable of continuing, as long as I'm able to continue. And it doesn't matter what people think, because there's enough traction. Someday, some people will get the benefit of this work. And I'm not looking to become famous or create a powerful organization. That's not it. I'm basically uh, happiest when I'm a creative thinker, when I'm doing a lot of creative thinking and coming up with things that are provocative that others haven't thought about. Maybe they have the data, but they haven't looked at it that way. I think I'm very good at coming up with original ideas and articulating them. And then if the ideas are very original, a lot of people are going to be upset because they haven't thought of it, and it's outside their comfort zone. Maybe I'm challenging them in certain ways, maybe I'm provoking them, and they don't like it because they are used to a certain routine, a certain way of thinking, and I'm questioning that. So when that happens, when there's pushback, I know that I have some work to do, and that's my calling, is to take on tough situations. So to give you a summary, I took on first the Western academics.
Mhm.
After giving them millions of dollars of grants to the Harvards of the world, we were giving them grants to do our studies, and then realized that what they're producing is not, they're not going to change. It's all biased. And when you point it out to them, they're not happy. So
Mhm.
from being the donor, the only donor in, if you look at in the 90s, there was nobody else giving grants to these guys. I was. So I have
Mhm.
a lot of experience on who's who. And so from being the donor, I became the biggest critic.
Mhm.
Okay, so they all wanted me to continue helping them, donating, and I would become a famous guy. They wanted me to be some, person in their academic system in a big capacity, and I didn't want to do that. Yeah,
Mhm.
I felt that being truthful to my tradition is more important than just having friends that'll make me look good.
Mhm.
So after I turned on the Western Academy, the next battle was they brought in the Indian left to help them. They
Mhm.
brought in the Indian left. I didn't. I had nothing to do with RSS. Didn't want anything to do with the Hindutva people. I just didn't want to have anything to do with the political people or Congress party. None of them. And the Westerners, in order to fight me, brought in the Indian left. Now,
Mhm.
actually, I had no problem with the Indian left until they started attacking me. I mean, I have not. I felt that the left, right, these are not paradigms that can really capture the whole thing. And so, in my effort to engage the Indian left, when the Westerners brought them in, I try to talk to them that we are all from India. We are loyal to our civilization. There is nothing left wing, right wing about it. I was talking about the value of yoga, the value of Ayurveda, healing systems, the value of Indian science. There's nothing left wing or right wing about it.
Mhm.
But I found very strange that the Indian left was almost like a sepoy working for the Westerners. They
Mhm.
had no mind of their own. They were not very intelligent. They didn't come back with scientific arguments. And they just came back with parroted one-liners, all kind of how to fight this guy, bring him down, that sort of thing.
Mhm.
So then I started taking them on. So now I had two enemies: the American Academy and the Indian left. And then after a while, I realized that maybe my allies should be the Hindu right, or people who thought that they're Hindu right. Until then, I'd never thought of those guys as
Mhm.
potential allies. So then I got drawn into them. They started seeing me as the thinker who's able to think ways that they haven't thought of, because they're very insulated, they're very narrow in their thinking, they're not well read, they don't know a whole lot about Western philosophy, Western history, science, they don't know all those things. And I was able to combine all that.
Mhm.
So for a while, I had a honeymoon with this Hindu right. They said this guy is a great champion, and I was brought around to all the big events and paraded and given all this limelight. And
Mhm.
then I found that the Hindu right got serious problems. The Hindu right got very serious problems,
Mhm.
because there is all this fanfare and ego to become famous, become important, and who's got more views and all that. Very little in original thinking, and easy to trample over each other. And they won't defend you if you're in trouble, even though you're fighting for them.
Mhm.
So I would go stick my neck out, fight for them. If there's a caste issue anywhere in the US Senate, I'd go to Washington. I went to the US Commission on International Religious Freedom, physically, personally, in the headquarters, and engaged the commissioners. I don't think any of these other people have done that. They just, from a distance, attacked them, criticized them, done copy paste, but they haven't really physically gone and done it. I used to do all that. And then I found that when I would get into issues, the Hindu right would run away rather than helping me. They would think I'm a liability. They would think that I'm controversial. Mandirs told me that we cannot have you come and give talks because, what will people think? I mean, what will be? So imagine I'm fighting their fight. I'm
Right.
fighting their fight. The Indian embassy, the Indian consulate would think that, oh, this guy is going to be controversial. So I started thinking, what the heck, I'm fighting your fight. I'm sticking my neck out. I gave up my whole business to do this. And
Mhm.
I'm not asking for you to pay me or any of that. Just give me some moral support. But
Mhm.
then they would rather be stick to non-controversial, safe, bring in the speaker who is talking about all goody stuff. We're all the same, all that kind of stuff. So I got frustrated with Hindu right.
Mhm.
And I must say that is, and I also see a lot of mediocrity in the Hindu right.
Mhm.
So, if you want to be a true intellectual, a public intellectual, and you don't want to sell out to any institution, and you don't want to be part of a political organization, because then you have to you have to limit your creativity, and you don't want to be part of some guru organization, because then also you have to sort of be within a hierarchy. It's very difficult. So I have had all of this happen, and my the moral of my life, from my experience, is that people should really be careful before they go out, stick their neck out on behalf of a whole community. uh, they should not assume that these guys are there behind you, because they'll use you when they need you, and then they'll pull the rug under your feet when they think that they can do without you, and then you are left hanging on your own. So I feel a lot of that has happened. But this has been an interesting ride for me. I'm a far better person. I've learned so much. I'm wiser having done all these things, and I'm really deeply engrossed in my research. And my latest topic of research, which I hope we'll get into, my AI thing, is so powerful and so interesting
Mhm,
that it's all been worth it.
mhm.
So that's a
Rajiv ji,
this may be long-winded, but actually it's a very synopsized, collapsed
mhm.
version of a very long journey I've had.
I'm sure, and such an inspiring journey at that. And I'm sure a lot of the students like me will find a lot of inspiration and motivation from this short synopsis of your journey. Rajiv ji, in pursuit of many simultaneous endeavors, you have also encountered many adversaries and challenges. What have been the main challenges and who have been most threatened by your work? And of course, why?
So, I would say that the West sees me as a clear thinking dharmic person that is not easily defeated. They can attack me personally and attack me as personality wise, but my work has never been debunked in terms of my actual body of work. They can say anything they want about me. It's not important. As far as the left is concerned, I think they're quite bankrupt. The left is quite bankrupt because the Indian left is not very original. I prefer having interactions with the American left and the British and European left. In fact, I have a lot of friends. I have a lot in common with them. In fact, we are just starting artificial intelligence and ethics, which is all left wing and Christian wing and all kind of people together, and we are starting that. So I have no problem engaging people from across the spectrum of ideology. uh, the Indian, intellectuals are very disappointing, and I would say that they lack hard work and originality and a good work ethic, and they're off to copy paste from here or there, spin their own, start a channel, video channel, and get ahead. So it's all the game of jugaad, hustling, getting past each other. There aren't any ethical principles. There is no camaraderie of working together. So it's similar to Indian society and the way business also works. Too much over competition and too much opportunism, too much narrow optimization of one's own selfish interests, not looking at the big picture. Even the gurus who become super gurus, they ought to be thinking big and not just their own organization. They aren't able to do that. I'm disappointed that RSS could have been the vehicle to unify all the Hindu groups. They could have done that. They could have said, okay, we are the big tent because we have credibility and we have some power and clout. And so we are going to bring every single person in and feature them and create opportunities for them and have once a month meeting where everybody's invited. There's no one who, it's not going to be that this one's not invited, that one's not invited. But they have pettiness. They have people. The top levels in RSS are very good people. The top tier, I know them personally. They're good human beings. They're very ethical, but they are not the ones who are going to go running things, projects. It's done by the middle tier, and the middle tier often have jealousy. I mean, they're basically more concerned about getting ahead for themselves, and they won't bring somebody who may outshine them. So if you become too good and too many people will follow you, they don't want you in their Goa enclave every year, because they'd rather have other people and control the limelight themselves. So that sort of thing. So I find I'm disappointed by the Hindus of today. My problems with the non-Hindus is less important. It's like, you got a cricket team, and if you're disappointed with your own team, it's pretty serious. If the other team is playing hard against you, then that's what they're supposed to be. They're supposed to play hard against you. So to the extent that there is this Islamic world, there is this Christian world, there is this Maoist world, and there's all these breaking India forces, I can see it from their point of view. They're doing the right thing because they want to expand and take over more resources in the world. Yeah. So I can't accuse them and blame them. I can say, hey, listen, we are opponents. We have to fight back. But The disappointment comes where our people are substandard,
Mhm.
are not capable of, forget being Vishwa Guru. I mean, are not capable of being, on par with the real opponents out there in the world. And I'm not talking about a few individuals like you. You have some good people in your organization. I'm familiar with Abhay. He's a great guy, your brother.
Mhm.
I'm talking about the general level, the general caliber of people that are out there representing Hindu Dharma, politically and socially, social media, and so on. The caliber is not there.
Mhm.
This is my disappointment.
Right. Thank you so much for putting this out for people to view and really understand, Rajiv ji. Which brings me to the question that on our collective journey of fighting Bharat and for Dharma, there are many people, like we just talked about, who do talk a lot about the dharmic ethos, but they don't really know how to live it. They do have big egos, like you just mentioned. They get angry, they get triggered easily, and they do very adharmic things, including, as you have, I'm sure, experienced many times, plagiarizing the work of others and claiming it as their own. So, my question is, what are your thoughts on this source of adharmic dharm raksha?
So, this is a very important point. This is such an important point. I want to differentiate between what I think of the Hindu Dharma as a system
Mhm.
versus what I think of the Hindus as
Okay.
people.
Mhm.
It's often people say, how can you be so pro Hinduism and you are criticizing the Hindus?
Mhm.
The difference is that the Hindu Dharma is a body of knowledge, an ideal with a certain history and certain great rishis and certain texts and practices. Now,
Mhm.
all this, what I just mentioned, is great. I'm supporting it all the time, and I'll continue. Never any doubt. But then there's something else called a group of people who are Hindus who may not be living up to all this.
Mhm.
You see, so the Hindus are disappointing to me. The Hindu Dharma is not. The Hindus are not living up to the standards of the Dharma. And many of them are using it to propel themselves into influence and power.
Mhm.
Some of them are political Hindus looking at Hinduism as a vote bank to get themselves into power. They are not necessarily serving the Dharma, they're using it for their benefit. Some are in the political limelight or in education, or they want a channel, or they failed in business or they failed in their career, and they are looking for a way to climb up and become important. And being this Hindu activist is a quick, easy way,
Mhm.
because if you got a gift of the gab and you know how to market and organize and get popularity, brand building, you can use this idea of being, I'm a Hindu activist, and get ahead. So the quality standard isn't necessarily there, that you really are deeply embodying this Dharma, and that you have studied it and worked hard and you really understand it. That needn't be the case. A person who's just a slick salesman can suddenly become top Hindu Dharma exponent.
Mhm.
They can do that. So that's the reason. Other traditions either have a institutional filter, so like the church is highly organized, seminaries are organized, and so they will send people who are well trained, well certified. We don't have a certification to be an activist. We're not institutionalized. There are a lot of advantages in having being totally free. Yeah. And even the leftists, they have their own peer group of academic people. How you get how you follow certain uh, you know conventions, you follow certain procedures, and you follow certain leaders, you respect them, you work as a team, and they all support you. In the Hindu Dharma, it's all everybody to himself. There is no ethics. You just beg, borrow, steal ideas here and there, and you go out there and do whatever the heck you can. And this is called jugaad, in terms of improvising quick and dirty solutions to get by. So the Hindu activism is a jugaad, is right now. This is the problem. And something like this will be it's very good for sensational things. We can make progress, we can help win elections, but I'm not interested. See, to me, and the following three levels are very clear. Highest level is the Dharma itself,
Mhm.
and the respect and protection of the Dharma is yagna. You give back and you're in alignment with the cosmos. That's, call it level A. Level B is there is something called Rashtra, which is loosely translated as nation. It's a collection of people and practices and geography. Now, this Rashtra, you don't protect the Rashtra for its own sake. You protect the Rashtra because it's a vehicle to protect the Dharma. The
Mhm,
Rashtra is supposed to protect the Dharma. Rashtra is an organ, is a mechanism, is a device, a machine to protect the Dharma. So if the Rashtra is not protecting the Dharma, my loyalty is more to the Dharma than to the Rashtra, if the
mhm,
Rashtra becomes corrupt.
mhm,
And then within the Rashtra, there are various organs, like the human body has many organs. One of them is a Rajya, the government.
mhm,
So are you pro-government? I am pro-Rashtra. So
mhm,
to me, the Rashtra is more important than the government. And if the government is no good, is no good. And then as far as government is concerned, there's political parties vying to run the government. So there's a hierarchy. To
mhm,
me, it's not so much getting this party in power or attacking that other party and so on. To me, that's a means to serving the Rashtra,
mhm,
and the Rashtra is a means to serving the Dharma.
mhm,
So that has to be very clear. So to me, the lower, as you go lower and lower in this hierarchy, from the Dharma to the Rashtra to the political reality to all these activists clamoring, as you get down, 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 it gets messier and messier. The quality standard gets pretty bad. So that's my state, and I'm very clear that I have serious problems with many Hindu activists, but I'm totally loyal and dedicated to my dharma.
mhm. Rajivji, thank you so much for explaining these really complicated situations and ideas so simply. I'm sure, I mean, it's becoming so much more clearer to me personally as well. So thank you for that. And moving on to your work, of which there is an ocean out there. And if I may just say, I'm really excited to read all the 20 volumes that you're going to write. I will start by asking you, could you please kindly summarize in perhaps 10, 12 minutes or so, most of all, for all Western viewers out there, what is the true story of Bharat and Sanatan Dharam? What is our real story, and what is it that we really stand for?
So this is a very exciting question. What is the story of Bharat? I've called it the Indian grand narrative. I defined that term, and that is the story of Bharat. The story of Bharat is not only the past; it's also our future. So that's another thing that we should know about. And when I talk about the Indian grand narrative, it's not only the history of what happened in India; it's also the Indian influence on the rest of the world, which is why we've written a 14-volume series on the history of Indian science and technology. It's about the export of mathematics and astronomy and philosophy. Some of my books that are in the pipeline are about how the West has digested a lot of Indian ideas and U-turn and characterized them as something different. But I've been researching this for over a quarter century, and I'm going to publish a lot of it. So the Indian past has played out worldwide, not just in India. It's not, the Indian grand narrative is not limited to geographical and political boundaries. It's a lot of the grand narrative happened in China and in Japan and Mongolia and in parts of the Middle East and Central Asia and Europe and so on. So the Indian narrative, the narrative of Bharat is not geographically limited. It's not limited by time, that it's all about past only, because it's also very futuristic. And this narrative is the primary, the foundation of this narrative is the open architecture and ongoing discovery by human beings, not frozen in time by some history. So the narratives of other people are some event happened, which is recorded in a certain one book, and it happened in this geographical area to certain people, and then you have to just go on studying that history of that one thing that happened, whether it is to Jesus or whether it is to Muhammad or whatever, or to Moses. It's a certain historical event which is very unique. But what is amazing about our narrative is that it's open, it's ongoing. It's rishi after rishi discovering, none of them saying it's final, none of them saying I'm the last one, none of them saying you denounce the other ones. It's like scientists who go on discovering things, and the rishis never said that there won't be a better another superior view in the future. Never said that. So this is why this openness allowed us has allowed our tradition to flow. and new discoveries come. So these discoveries are called shrutis. These discoveries, which are the highest level discoveries in a state of consciousness, are shrutis, and the Vedas are the shrutis. But then, unlike the books of other traditions that are frozen, this is the complete book, this is what it doesn't say in this book, you cannot bring that in our case. We also have smritis. The
Mhm.
smritis are texts that are written over time, they keep changing. So all the politics, all the constitution of a country is a smriti. All the discoveries, scientists made a discovery, but then they may refute it, it may change next day. It's a particular point of view, it's a smriti.
Mhm.
All the ideas of Nyaya and philosophy and Jyotish and Ayurveda and those kind of things, they're all smritis. So the knowledge systems that are evolving over time, that are open, are smritis. So
Mhm.
this gives you the human laboratory of discovery is the rishi, and everybody has that capacity. Since everybody is Sachitanand, everybody has the capacity of self-realizing, self-actualizing the rishi in them, the rishi potential, and then becoming a discoverer, and then developing more and more ideas that come out of that. It is not that you have to bow to a book or an institution or some authority and say, okay, that's the limit. Certainly, I bow to the gurus because they get me going and they get me started. But that doesn't mean that I'm limited to what they have taught me.
Mhm.
Our tradition is full of, somebody going beyond what he learned from the gurus, challenging the gurus, arguing with them, and advancing the knowledge even beyond. So one of the great reasons I wrote this, we sponsored this multi-volume series on history of science and technology, is to show the moving nature, the evolving nature, whether it's metallurgy, whether it's textiles, whether it's medicine. Knowledge in India has not been fixed and frozen. So when people think that Indian knowledge to give a tribute to Indian knowledge, you don't need to be innovative. You just need to go back and parrot what was written. That's not true.
Mhm.
Indian knowledge requires that you learn from what has happened and then you take it forward. Even Manusmriti, Manu himself says that all this stuff I'm writing about society, you think of it as social science, Manusmriti.
Mhm.
So all this stuff that I'm writing about society it has to be put in context and place. In a different place, it may be different rules, different things that are appropriate. What's appropriate in the north may not be appropriate in the south. What's appropriate in one community may not be appropriate in another community. What's appropriate in one period of history, one time, one moment in context may not be for another one. Manu himself says that.
Mhm.
So this business of freezing Manusmriti as sort of the codified laws of Hindus is not what Manu himself wanted.
Mhm.
So there is this dynamic quality that Smritis have, that is from the premise that we are discoverers. We are constantly discoverers. So I'll
Mhm.
give you a new vocabulary because I'm right now into the artificial intelligence.
Mhm.
Okay. So in artificial intelligence, there's something called artificial intelligence is based on the idea of machine learning. So
Mhm.
these are machines that are learning from experience. And the experience is given to them in the form of data, examples, and that's called big data. So
Mhm.
big data is the example that is fed to the machines, and the machines are deep learning, neural networks, all of that stuff to become smarter and smarter. So it learns to drive a car and become better and better at it, or it learns to do facial recognition
Mhm.
and it can recognize better and better. So this learning part is the basis of machine learning, which is the foundation of artificial intelligence. Our philosophy says that humans are like that too. In fact, machine learning is trying to replicate humans. Humans are not fixed knowledge. We are always learning. So a civilization is also a machine learning. If you, in an analogy, a civilization is learning system,
Mhm.
constantly new experiences, new things being tried, like big data. All the experiences that a civilization has and it uses to come up with rules and policies and the latest knowledge, that's all big data. You can think of it as big data. So think of Manu is a person who goes around looking at the cultural and social practices of people in various communities and comes up with a codified, systematized set of rules and principles to encapsulate what's going on. He
Mhm.
never says this is my original proposition. He says this is how people are doing. He never says this is fixed in time. It has to evolve. Maybe 100 years later, some other Manu has to come and come up with do a survey and do an examination of society and come up with rules, come up with principles, come up with recommendations. And these have to be aligned with the Smriti, with the Shruti. They have to be aligned with the Vedic philosophy. So the Vedic philosophy as a kind of foundation, and being applied all the time and reapplied for newer and newer experiences. So think of Vedic foundation as sort of like the basic assumptions and premises of the machine learning system. If you think of society as a machine in a sense, just as an analogy. So if the Vedas are the substratum of Indian civilization, and then the civilization is a machine learning system that is using all the experiences of what's going on as big data and becoming smarter and smarter and getting enhanced. So if you model Bharatiya society in this way, it's a very advanced progressive model, very consistent with and very futuristic, consistent with the latest thinking in artificial intelligence. So you see, we have to reimagine in the age of AI, we have to reimagine Bharatiya civilization as a very intelligent learning entity. It's a being. That the civilization is a being, like the machine is trying to behave like a being, but it's not really a being, but it's trying to. That's why the word artificial is there. So but in the case of civilization, is real being with humans and minds and all that, and it is learning. Okay, and its learning is far more sophisticated than the machine learning. So the machine learning, to understand machine learning, will lead you to a reimagined, a new approach to thinking about Bharatiya civilization.
Mhm. Right, right. Thank you so much. I think this is a great analogy to really figure out and understand what otherwise is a complex system of functioning. And following on from that previous question, why does the world not know this about us, about the Hindu civilization? There have, of course, been waves of colonial subjugation, and with it, the gross distortion of our itihas. Who is behind the wiping out and distortion of our truth? And how did they really achieve this colossal deception?
So my AI has also given me a new way to think about the other people.
Mhm,
So they are rival AI systems. They are rival machine learning systems.
mhm,
So they are constantly trying to improve their learning algorithms, just like Bharatiya civilization has been evolving for itself, for its benefit. So any other civilization that comes and invades us or attacks us, they are doing this. They are doing from. They don't start with a substratum of Vedas as the foundation of their learning. They start with the foundation of some other text or some book or some whatever ideology. So
mhm,
with that as their starting point, they're also trying to learn, they're trying to expand, they're trying to capture, they're trying to go here and there and pick up new resources.
mhm,
So the problem is that they look at us as raw material which they can capture. They can capture land, they can capture knowledge, they can capture the history and distort it to fit their agenda.
mhm,
So we are the big data that they are using to train themselves. Our resources, so the invasion, expansion, conquest of all our assets, including intellectual assets, is like a predator just wanting to devour and do it for the benefit of becoming stronger for themselves. So
mhm,
when you think about it from their point of view, one thing you have to credit them is that they're very innovative. So they've taken Indian mathematics, they've taken a lot of Indian medicine, they've taken a huge amount of Indian metallurgy and textiles. Even now they're taking Sanskrit, and they've developed phenomenal advances in computational linguistics. And
mhm,
from computational linguistics, natural language processing, they're still taking a huge amount of big data from India. The Googles and the Facebooks and the Twitters of the world, India is one of the richest places. We are fools thinking that, oh, we got lots of WhatsApp users, or we got one of the largest numbers of Google users or something. But actually, we're supplying them free data. I mean, the point is that, so they are smart, and the process of colonization hasn't ended. Now it's digital colonization, it's AI based colonization, you see. So it's we who are fools letting this happen. Something, we could blame them, and I've done enough of that for my career. But I think we could also turn around and look at ourselves and say, why are we so vulnerable? Why don't we have our act together? It's still the case that a Google can come and buy a huge amount of equity, Google and Facebook buy equity from Reliance, Geo, and everybody goes up and down, jumping, celebrating. When this happened last summer, I was the only voice which was critical of this investment in Geo. Everybody, including all the Hindu activists, celebrating it as a symbol that we are so good that they want to buy us out. Okay, so we didn't understand. It's like if somebody came and bought off the some of the top academies training Bharatnatyam. Christians have bought off many Bharatnatyam academies in India. I don't know if you know that, but many of the Indian Hindu dance academies have been purchased, taken over by Christians, and they're Christianizing this dance. So you cannot blame them, because for them it's an investment. It's like you do mergers and acquisitions in the corporate world to expand. So they've done this acquisition in order to expand their footprint. So it's our people who are very happy that, hey, those guys like us and they gave us all this money or whatever and they bought us off. We are happy being bought off. That's a tragedy. So it happened in the past. They had to come and compromise Indian people, Indian leaders, make some zamindars, get inside the heads of these rajas and make them fight. And so the ability of other nations, other countries, other civilizations to capture us, colonize us, shows their sophistication in their machine learning. How, if you think of their civilization as a machine learning system, they're very sophisticated in that, and being able to figure out and hack into our civilization and figure out how to compromise it and turn it into a huge asset that they can harvest. So this is what my model of colonization is. That colonization is a system where competing civilizations, each wanting to evolve, learn, improve its algorithms, they're encountering each other, and then the winners are the ones that are able to do this better and turn the other one into data that you can suck in. And the loser is the one who thinks that they are winning, but they're too stupid to realize that actually they're becoming slaves. So we have not recovered from that. We can keep blaming Macaulay for this, and all kind of people who did this and that. Max Miller did these things, and then Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi is doing these things, and Pope is doing them, and we can blame that. And I'm one of the pioneers, by the way, more than a quarter century ago, who started these. This thing about let's turn the gaze against these people and keep them, and it served a purpose because it awakened a lot of our people who were not awake at that time. It took me more than 10-15 years of this kind of work, very unpopular talking and shaking people up, to get enough people shaken up. And I'm glad I did that. But I think that we now have to move on beyond this. We cannot just be stuck on, looking back and accusing and blaming other people, because it's happened. What has happened has happened. Why is it still happening today is my question. Today, we have a Hindu rule. We are autonomous. Why is it right now we are selling the Kumbh Mela big data? Yogi Adityanath invited, after I advised him not to do so, invited all the Harvards and all these foreign organizations to come and study the Kumbh Mela as if we need them to study us, not realizing that they're studying it for their own reason. That's digital colonization. They're sucking all this big data about diverse people, 100 million people of various communities, of various languages, different DNA, different genetics. All of this they're capturing from the Kumbh Mela as the largest opportunity to gather big data on human beings, largest in the world, in one place, so much diversity. And they're doing it, and we are letting them do it. And after I advised them and wrote about it, not to let them do it, I mentioned all this in my book, I went to Yogi Adityanath, gave them PowerPoint presentations, gave them my reports. They, in fact, instead of listening to me, they just invited them to come even more. So this is not somebody else's fault. You cannot say that some other people are doing this. It's our own people, because they're not very smart. Either they're not smart, but then they need good advisors. They need good babus who know all of this stuff. The babus are not smart, or they're compromised. Maybe the Harvards of the world and the foreign entities that wanted this have done all the schmoozing, wining, dining, and taking them to foreign places and making them happy and giving them a nice song and dance that will come and improve your public health. So, the problems, the patterns of colonization, which I have been exposing all my life, exists today in the new form of this AI based colonization, and
Mhm.
our governments and all our people are involved in this. They are
Mhm.
listening to the strategies for AI are developed by Google and Facebook, and they're developed by McKinsey, and they're developed by Price Waterhouse. And these are the people that are serving the corporate elite in the world. And they're not really out there serving the Aam Aadmi of India. So I would say that I would challenge the Hindu activists who are only focusing on the colonization and the problems brought by outsiders. I would say that you also have to focus on our own people today who are continuing these problems. And the other message I have is I'm now talking about Breaking India 2.0.
Mhm.
Breaking India 2.0 means that the Breaking India forces that I exposed, 15, 20 years ago, and a decade ago, I wrote a book on it. Those forces have become very digital savvy. I
Mhm.
mean, they know how to break India using AI, using social media, using more kinds of detailed intelligence to come into a community, convert them, shift their ideology, make them fight each other. So the Breaking India 2.0 is where the fight is now.
Mhm.
So I would say that the pattern of thinking about colonization, decolonization, that I started long time back, and now a lot of people are into it. I would say that that's obsolete, and
Mhm.
now we should talk about the current, latest level of threat that India faces, and the need for Indian leaders to get re-educated.
Mhm. Right. Thank you, Rajiv ji. I mean, you did make a very crucial point, and I think that is something that a lot of us should really focus on in terms of moving forward, which is of self-reflecting on ourselves and on our own community. And today, again, thanks to the relentless dedication of pioneering thought leaders like yourself, Rajiv ji, we are finally reversing centuries of propaganda and understanding who we are and telling our story with confidence. What are the areas we need to focus on both to accelerate this process of revival and resurgence? And what advice would you give to those who wish to be a part of this process?
So, as a self-serving author, I'd say read my book. I mean, and that's normal, that's natural. I put a lot into every single book I write. This AI book, the one I just have, uh,
Mhm.
you should read it and question me on this. This is 5 years of work. It's a serious piece of work,
Mhm.
and I would say that uh, if people want to join our volunteer organization, they can write to us. If you go to the website aiandpower.com, you can see a lot of videos. You can see a lot of overviews and discussions on this book, and you can register your name and address, and we'll include you in our movement. But more broadly, with nothing to do with us only, I would say that people need to be stronger within. We one of the problems we have is our youth is emotionally weak.
Mhm.
Our youth is very psychologically vulnerable and very weak. They constantly need to be hugged and told you're good and you're okay. Otherwise they'll say, oh no, no, you spoiled my feel good. When I tell them about threats, they said, sir, you are spoiling my feel good. They'd rather go to an event where they just eat a samosa, have some chai, and listen to some music or watch some cricket game. Or if it's some Hindu kind of activism event, somebody will stand there and say Chidambaram will go to jail and Rahul Gandhi is going to go to jail, and so opponent is bad person, we're going to defeat them, and so invader is bad, and we are the greatest for 5,000 years. I mean, it's all slogans, one liners. It's emotional. Our
Mhm.
people are too vulnerable, over opinionated, and over emotional. So they are not sufficiently logical, rational, analytical, robust. You got to be. I'll tell you, I learned so much from so many people. One of the important discussions I had was a CEO of British Telecom. So
Mhm.
you've had an upbringing, a part of your upbringing in Britain, right?
No,
So
I'm based in India. I
you're
live,
based in.
yes.
Okay, good, all right. So your brother is in Britain.
Mhm.
Okay, so During Margaret Thatcher's time, I used to British Telecom were my leading client, so we got to know each other very well. I was working right in the chairman's office
Mhm.
and helping them get into new ventures and new industries and all that stuff, build long-term plans for them. So one of the guys there who asked me, what is the most important quality for success in a CEO? And I thought, it would be he should know telecom, he should be a software guy, he should be a techie, he should be a creative thinker. He surprised me. He said, no, no, the most important success factor, in my opinion, is he should be psychologically strong. He should be emotionally strong. He should be able to keep his cool. He should be able to maintain his dignity, in his equilibrium, his sanity, not get into depression, not get into emotional turmoil, and function very logically, very nice way. I started paying attention to what he had said and started observing around me, and I found that indeed people who were psychologically and emotionally stable did much better in the long run. And then when I started trying to do business in India also, I found they're emotionally so volatile, so volatile. I mean, you can get the better of them in a pragmatic deal by just being cuddling up to them. You cuddle up to the Indian and you make him feel good about himself, and you pamper him and you flatter him. He'll do all kind of things for you. So, these machine learning systems are understanding the psychology of people. So they're understanding the psychology of Indian culture, Indian people, Indian youth, and this is part of what the British learned about us: how to manage us, how to flatter us and get the better of us. Okay, and how to motivate Indians to work for them. When the British East India Company ruled over India, over 100 wars were fought in India, in China, in Africa, using Indian soldiers,
Mhm.
because they knew how to motivate them, win them over, be nice to them. They knew how to do that. But do you know that in China, they failed to raise even one small garrison of Chinese soldiers because the Chinese would not work for them? So the Chinese had this pride. They were not so vulnerable that you flatter and the guy will come and buy, you can buy him out. They were not for sale for some emotional reason.
Mhm.
Indians have been for sale for a very long time, and it's still the case. Still the case that how well Indians will do. How well you think of them and make them proud and all that. That will determine how good they are to you.
Mhm.
So I would say that we have these problems. Probably the problems with government and leaders not knowing all of the stuff that I'm talking about, and there are problems with the masses being too emotional, too emotionally, psychologically weak, and very vulnerable. And in this age of AI and machine learning, that is a vulnerability that's being exploited.
Mhm. Right, right. Rajiv ji, thank you so much for putting this out there. And I think this is something a lot of us will definitely think about and hopefully will work on. My next question to you is, what are the current or perhaps newer forthcoming threats to our civilizational security, and how do we tackle them?
So the my artificial intelligence book and various talks based on it point out that this AI is making the algorithms more and more intelligent, and you are being managed, and the things that you are encountering, what you like through your email and search and all that, and also what is managing you and controlling you through your social media, are all based on algorithms. And these algorithms are more and more AI based. They're pretty much all of them are AI based. So we are entering an age of AI based cyber warfare, psychological warfare, and this is a big weapon for what I call Breaking India 2.0. So Breaking India 2.0 is basically the Breaking India forces, which are various divisive forces in India aligned with global nexuses, whether it's some evangelism, whether it's some Islamic group, whether it is some leftist group, or whatever it is. The different groups in India that are anti-India, that are not interested in the unity of India, but in some other aspect of it, including Khalistanis. They're aligned with various global nexuses. That's the Breaking India scenario that I brought out. But now I'm saying Breaking India 2.0 is that these entities, the global nexuses that are controlling the Indian entities, are very savvy with the new technology, the new digital technology. They know how to hack into your brains, how to hack into your your emotional side, how to make the which group of Indians. So imagine if there's a riot going on, they're listening, and through natural language processing, they're looking at the sentiments of what people are saying. Are they angry? Are they happy? Are they fearful? Which among them can be aroused to make become angry and do something against others? Uh, in whatever language they may be speaking, Punjabi, it doesn't matter. The machine learning things can listen to all that and learn all that. So the ability to in real time understand the psychology and emotional state of 1,000,000,003 people all over through their buzz with each other, and the ability to come up with the behavior profile, how what is their behavior, what is the mechanism by which they think, which ideology do they belong to, can they be converted to from this ideology to that ideology, what type of fake news will this person like, will that person like. Do you know, every time you click something, your profile is updated in the machine learning system as to what you clicked for, when you clicked, why you clicked, in what circumstances you clicked. All kind of detailed parameters about that situation are codified, and so a record of who you are and what your behavior is gets updated all the time. So this insight into the large psychology of so many Indian people is real time and very smart. No human beings alone sitting around, even if you had an army of several thousand people watching and observing, they would not be able to do such a good job. So this map into the minds of Indians and other people also is very dangerous, because now they know how to exploit you. How now they know what type of fake news you will listen to, what will make you happy, what will make you angry, so they can play that. Just like Cambridge Analytica it was used by the Russians to hack into the US elections in 2016, and this became big news. Similar things happening in India, but India doesn't know it. And so India is for sale because its data is for sale, and its digital infrastructure can be hacked. It's the Chinese hacking the Mumbai power grid, which they tried to, and there are two stories on whether they succeeded or didn't succeed. But it's quite a shame that they were able to get in and hack this. So they can hack into all kinds of things. They can hack into military systems. So the future threats are AI based, and India hasn't woken up. And I have tried to, for the last few years, given many talks to the government people, various officially, unofficially, whether it's a minister, whether it's their babus, talk to public intellectuals. I don't think that India gets it. I think that India is very superficial about it. They claim that it's all under control, and they'll give you an example here and there. But when you look deep inside, India's investment in AI is very small compared to other countries. It's starting too late, and it's not strategic, and it's not big enough to protect India. So I feel that India is at serious risk of these breaking India 2.0 forces that are interested in finishing off the country. They want to just finish off the country. And the external threats, you look at China, it's way ahead in AI and making so many weapons, so many new kinds of drones and new, robotic soldiers and under the sea submarines that are driverless and snooping around. All of this is going on. And India is now, within the last 8, 9 months, they've just started waking up that, hey, this is happening. And so far it's writing papers and concepts and proposals and allocating some high level budgets. But in earnest, India is not hasn't geared up to face this next revolution. So think of this as follows. Britain became a colonial power because of the Industrial Revolution. If there were no Industrial Revolution, they would not have become so mighty. But before the Industrial Revolution, India had more manufacturing than Britain.
Right.
But they denied India the Industrial Revolution. They did it, and Indians were not allowed to set up in those kind of factories with electrical things and all that, electrified machines. So the Industrial Revolution in England, and then the French also got involved in it, created a new world order, created haves and have-nots, and who became colonizer and who became a colony. It was just determined by the technology. So you see, the technology has has completely wiped out civilizations, sometimes turned people into slaves.
Mhm.
Weapons, Babur brought cannons, into India. So the Battle of Panipat, famous, and the by other Europeans brought by sea on boats. They brought the cannons, and
Mhm.
so Indians didn't have the cannons, even though cannon had existed in Europe and in various places for a long time. But Indians didn't bother understand it and bring that technology. So Indians faced the cannon with elephants, and elephant run away. When you blow a cannon, a few cannons can finish off a whole elephant army.
Mhm.
So we just didn't know this. We are too proud, and that's the same situation today when I go around telling people about what are the threats. So your question is a very important one. When I answer it, give people details, they don't want to hear about it. They want only good news. They keep telling me how we did well in this and that. Okay, we did very well in a lot of things, and that we should be proud of that. But where we are vulnerable is the weakest link in a chain that breaks it.
Mhm.
When you pull the chain, you can have many strong links, but you have one weak link, it breaks it. So you always have to look at where are we most vulnerable. And I would say we are most vulnerable in the coming onslaughts with artificial intelligence, both internal breaking India forces and external threats. And
Mhm.
our over emotional youth and over emotional population is highly vulnerable to this kind of AI threat.
Mhm. Right. Thank you so much, Rajiv ji. I think this is going to bring a lot of further conversation in place as well. And it's dangerous to think about, but I also understand how important and crucial it is for us to not just realize that this is happening, but actually act accordingly. And so my final question is about the seminal body of research that you've done for your new book on artificial intelligence. My colleague Anhadji will interview you in detail about this. But could you please summarize the key themes and learnings from your 5 years of hard work on the AI book that you've written?
Yeah, my work started 50 years ago when I was a graduate student in computer science in the United States. My topic was artificial intelligence. So that field was very young and embryonic and not so sophisticated, but that's when I got into it. We were writing programs to play chess and simple things like that. But I kept in touch with it as a matter of interest, even though for the last more than quarter century I've been into the humanities and social sciences and protecting Dharma and writing, doing work in that area, as you know. But I kept in touch with all this. And 5 years ago, I decided that this field has become very serious, and people are not looking at it in terms of how does this AI interact with Dharma? How does it interact with Vedas? So I have a lot more volumes to come out. This is just one volume because I want to give one dose, and I
Mhm.
want people to read it because then they'll be ready for the next, and even if you don't read the whole book, read the introduction, which is 25 pages, and read the first page of every chapter, which is highlights. The highlights
Mhm.
are in bullet point. You'll get a good idea, and at least you can join the conversation.
Mhm.
The book basically looks at artificial intelligence and its impact in five battlegrounds. I call them five battlegrounds. The first two battlegrounds are the sthul shari, the
Mhm.
physical body of the rashtra. Just like a person has a physical body called the sthul sharir, the nation has it, the rashtra has it. And just like a person has sukshma sharir, which is the mental, emotional, subtle body inside, so also a rashtra has an emotional body. Its knowledge systems, its identity, those are its emotional side. So the if you look at the sthula sharir of India, the India as a rashtra, there is the part which has to do with infrastructure, economy, jobs. That is a part of the robustness of the society. Are we a strong nation? Do we have good economy? Do we have jobs? Do we have highly educated people? So that determines the kind of physical strength of the nation. That is one battleground, and the other is internationally, with all the borders being threatened by various alien people. What is their strength and our strength in military and geopolitics. So that is the second battleground, is the military, geopolitical, especially China as a threat. Then the third and fourth are psychological, emotional, spiritual kind of areas of strength and weaknesses. So battleground 3 is about the psychological hacking, about the vulnerability of our weak, psychologically and emotionally weak people to suck up to these social networks, which are owned by foreign countries, and give up all our data and let them understand us psychologically, and what all, how they manage us, how my fight over you with you will be through some social media, and you will hit back to me also in terms of social media. Or if you and I are aligned, it's because we are aligned through the social media. And so whoever controls the social media can turn us off like that. They can do whatever they want. We are highly vulnerable. And in the meantime, they're letting us play and dance and all of that because they're learning about us. They're learning how we think and all that stuff. So their algorithms to deal with us are becoming more smart. This is a battleground 3. Battleground 4 is a very spiritual one. It has to do with, as people get more and more gratification with AI, with augmented reality, virtual reality, variables, and all these things are coming. Both Apple and Facebook are going to introduce tremendously powerful hardware in 2022. Both have announced that next year you will see a huge flood of new kind of technology which uses AI, and that will replace the craving. That'll be the new way of doing social media and interacting and buying things and doing your banking and all your email. It'll all be of a whole different level, change. So this this gives us, this takes the sense of me as Rajiv or anybody away from their body, away from their sense of individuality as a adhyatmic person. We are told in our tradition that I'm not this body, I'm a being inside. But what this AI is doing is getting me outside. It's making more extroverted. So now I'm interested in a holiday here in a Netflix streaming there, or I imagine and fantasize I'm part of this cricket game. I'm in the middle of the pitch, or I'm sitting and having dinner with this celebrity, or whatever the augmented reality is doing. It's extroverted. It's taking my attention away. So it's breaking the notion of a unified self, which is the self that has Anand, that is the Satchit Anand in us. So the direction of yoga and direction of meditation is an inward one, and AI is taking me, making me an extroverted being and kind of breaking up that unified self. So that's battleground 4. And this is something gurus ought to talk about, but they haven't. And battleground 5 is the battle for India. What happens to India? What happens to India with all these battlegrounds? So that's the an overview of what this book is writing about.
I'm so excited. I can't wait to read this book and really understand all the research that you've done and all the guidance that I will get from your book. And I would honestly recommend, after this entire conversation, to people to read this book and actually talk about things which are not being talked about as much as they should be. Rajiv ji, pranam to you. Thank you so much for taking out time for us and having this conversation with us today. I have honestly looked up to you for so long. I mean, as soon as I started getting interested in current affairs and what's happening in the world, you were one of the few people I started following on social media. And I'm honestly grateful for you to be here and have this conversation with us. I'm truly honored. Thank you so much, Rajiv ji. Namaste.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure. I love talking to young people. I think it's easier to talk to people who are very open, very free, and they want to learn. They don't get scared. I mean, the young people who are intelligent, smart, who are not scared, who want to know all the issues are a real delight to talk to. We have some of the most brilliant people in our society. We also, the problem is we also have a large number of people who are not well educated. We have a huge uneducated or mediocre type of youth who are in sort of emotionally vulnerable, excitable, and politicians just feed them what they want to hear. And I think the country politically and in terms of too much democracy and too much politics exploiting this kind of people, that's a serious problem. And it's not a small number of people. Maybe there's 500, 600 million people in India who are not well educated, who are not secure emotionally, and therefore they're highly vulnerable. So when I meet people like you, I'm very happy. I'm so
Thank
delighted,
you so much.
and I want
Thank
to
you so much.
continue further interactions with you and your group.
It's an honor and a pleasure, Rajiv ji, truly. And to all our viewers, please do like, share, and subscribe not only Festival of Bharat, but also Rajiv ji's channel for all these amazing, fantastic, and insightful conversations that he has in store for us before and in the future. Rajiv ji, pranam to you. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you. Thank
Thank,
you, and all the best to you, and lots of blessings.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Namaste. We hope you enjoyed this Citti Media content. Please remember to subscribe to us and switch on the notifications for this channel. For our other social media links, more content, and to support our work, please visit citti.net. Dhanyavad. Namaskar.